So session 2 now?
Yes. Our plan is to design an API.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So we talked about what features we want in the app.
Yes.
Now let's figure out how to do this.
Oh, add it to do items and mark
as completed.
items as done. Yeah. So those are the four things we can do in the app.
Do you want a delete thing?
Well, marking items as done serves as deleting, right? I mean, you have an item, and then you click it, and it's gone.
It goes away, yeah.
So it's like deleting items. Yeah.
Serves it post.
Yeah. So we need to design an API. The API is just a way for the server to communicate with the browser.
Front end,
we are doing a web app, so a server is like GitHub.com. That's a server probably in California somewhere. A computer that belongs to GitHub, the company, which is Microsoft these days. And they have a computer there. So anytime in my computer, when I write github.com, I'm accessing that computer.
Yeah.
So that's the server. And my browser is the client. And we need a way for the two to communicate in our app. And
you can't have everything done on the client. It's not possible. You can't have all your operations, everything going on in the app, stuffed into a mini thing that goes into your browser.
Yeah.
It is important to do everything on the server and communicate. Keep your client minimal.
Exactly, yeah. The server is going to do all the logic. The server is going to store the to-do items. The server knows when an item is marked as done.
Yep.
The client, the browser, only knows how to render the to-do.
Yes.
The browser is only doing this view.
Yep.
That's it.
So the point is that the client is stupid. Has no idea what's going on. Its only job is to, let's say, if I'm typing stuff, to pass on that information to the server, or whatever the server sends, wants to show me, to just render it. That's all.
Yes. Okay, so this communication is going to happen via an API.
Yeah.
And we have a tool to develop APIs. It's called Postman. Let's open Postman. And at its simplest, Postman looks like a web browser, except that you have a lot more options on how to do things. So let's start here on the web browser, the thing we know. We go to github.com and click enter, and that's it. Here in Postman, let me close this window. You have this view. It looks like a browser. It has a tab and everything.
Yeah.
You can say like HTTPS, github.com, and hit send. And it's going to do the same request. It's going to go, similar to a web browser, it's going to go to github.com, request the website, and show it to me, except that it's not showing it to me
in a rendered format.
Yeah, it's not rendering. It's just showing me as the HTML that
everything that the browser also gets back, except the browser has a job of rendering. The Postman does not. Postman will give you data.
Yeah, it's just going to give me the raw HTML returned by the server that could be rendered into the thing that we see here.
Yep.
But in this case, we only see the HTML, and we have a lot more options on how to do the request.
Yeah.
For instance, when you hit, you create a, let's say, create a repository. So you're filling a form and you hit create repository. You're filling a form, so you're sending data to the server this time. You're not only getting data from the server. And here in Postman, we don't have to fill in a form. We have an option to be explicit and pretend that we are filling a form.
Any form that word. Pretend that you're filling a form.
Yeah, and it's exactly that. So here we have a way to say, oh, the form has a field
called whatever, website
repository
or
name.
Repository name. Or anything.
Repository name. And a value of TODOOSE. So we can make our own forms in Postman, and Postman will pretend that this is the form you're filling on a web page. So it gives us a lot more options on how to do things. And
I think you might want to take that out.
Yeah, we don't want to use an environment now.
So
that's what Postman does. It's a web browser on steroids. You have a lot more options on how to use it. And
nice description.
Because it gives us all these possibilities on how to do requests and everything, it's also a great way for us to document our API, because we can start writing the requests that form the API And Postman is going to allow us to run these requests, to document these requests and share this documentation with others. And that's and writing tests to make sure that
Postman will have that.
We can run tests, automated tests that are like programs that you run to make sure that your API is behaving as expected.
You get the same data back, you get the same format, you get the same whatever response codes and everything.
Yeah. So in this view, let's start with the simplest thing here. Just create a request to get the list of items, to read the list of items. And I think that it's probably going to be HTTP something here. I don't know what's right here. But then we see a list of items. So why not call it items?
Yeah, that's intuitive, that's simple.
Yeah. I don't know exactly what goes here because I don't know where I am.
We're actually deploying this.
Yes. So initially, it's going to run on my computer.
Yeah, so we can set localhost for now.
Yeah, it's weird, right? Because usually when you use a browser, you go to other computers like GitHub.com.
Yes, not on your own thing.
Not on your own computer. But this time, we are going to run the server on my computer as well while we are developing.
The client also will be the browser on your computer. That's it.
Yeah. So there is this special name called localhost, which always means my own computer. So when I write github.com on my computer and when you write github.com on your computer, we go to the same computer.
Same thing, yes. Same end entity.
Yeah. But when I type localhost and you type localhost...
It's different things, actually.
Different things. I go to my computer, you go to yours. It's a special name.
It's home. It's literally home for a computer.
Yep. And I think that may be all we need. And if we try to actually perform this request,
you won't get anything right now.
There is no server running.
Yes.
We'll get to that in a later episode. But for now, we just have a way to say that this is what we intend
to do with this API endpoint.
Yeah. And I think we can save this, right? We can save this request because we are now creating this documentation. And we can say that this get to do items or something.
Yeah, and description here is not particularly necessary. I feel like it should be fine.
I think for now it's okay.
Yeah, for more complicated requests, it's ideal that you describe it so that even your co-workers or your colleagues or anyone who's actually looking at it knows what's going on. That's all. And we can create a collection, I think.
Yeah, we have to save this somewhere.
Yeah.
It's like when you create a file on your text editor, you have to save this file somewhere. And in Postman, the request goes into a collection that is something you can save. So we need to create a collection here. I'm going to call it TODOOSE.
Yeah. It's a collection is basically it is technically a collection of like requests of one application, let's say, or one particular feature of an application if the application itself is too huge. It's supposed to be similar things going on together. That's all.
So now we have a way to save this to TODOOSE. And here we can see the collection and all the requests we have in the collection. Currently only one. Get to do items. And that's how we perform the request. But it's also nice to document how we want the response
that
from the server to me.
This,
So here we can create an example. And this is an example of a response from the server. So when the browser here is doing the GET request,
asks for information from the server.
Yes. When that happens, it expects to be successful. And to get some example response, so it expects to see some data. And then we have to talk about how to show that data.
What data format to send back. I think here you can just have a list of different to-do items.
So we to-do items, I'll try to put these two side by side. Let's see how this works.
Yeah, that should work. You can just,
So we have some items here on the right, and how are we going to write this? Well, here's an idea. Read to-do item. Create new to-do items, edit to-do item, and mark items as done. So we're just document documenting how we expect the answer to be.
Yep, that's all.
And this works.
Yeah.
But is this good enough? I mean,
I don't think so.
What don't you like about it?
So it says that that's the only thing I can expect here. In the sense that I would also like to see an unsuccessful case, to be honest, because I will screw up more than I will get stuff right. And B, I would want more information on these. Like, I get the text, but I would like something like an identifier for each of them, or I don't know, maybe actions for different to-do items. I don't think actions here are valid, but at least an identifier.
An identifier is nice because suppose I create another to-do item that
which
is
has
like
the
this.
same name. Yeah, exactly.
Now
how
these
do
two,
I,
how do I differentiate these two?
Yeah, exactly. I need to know what's going on, right?
Yeah. So, and your other point about being unsuccessful, for this request, I don't know how it could be unsuccessful.
The request itself might be unsuccessful. The browser may not. And this is
What do you mean?
I have made enough typos in my life to realize I might actually type items as, I don't know, IEMTs or something like that.
Okay, so if you get this part wrong.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I don't want to go into that level of detail because there are a million different ways to get this wrong.
Yeah.
But okay, so the idea of having ideas is fine. So here's an idea. I could do it like this.
Yep, exactly. Have a different identification for each of these, and that's what to perform any action on a to-do item that there is, you use the ID, not the text in it. To add a to-do item, let's say I will auto-generate, or whatever, my browser will generate, my server might generate, either ways, a new identifier for that ID, for that to-do item.
The server is responsible for coming up with these numbers and associating them with the to-do items. Fine, okay, so now in my server, I need to generate this. I will need to, in a later episode, I'll need to generate this as a big string.
Yes.
On my client, I'll need to make sense of this big string.
Yeah.
I'll need to break it in different lines and figure out the identifier by separating
a pattern, by colon and stuff like that.
Are you happy with this part?
No.
Why are you
Too much work.
It's too much work, right?
Yeah.
It's a lot of code that I would need to write to make this string, to break it apart.
Yeah, exactly. It's too much work. I would not want to do that.
Yeah, so let's go back to the toolbox. And we have something for client-server communication. It's a data exchange format called JSON.
Yeah.
JSON is not really a language on itself.
No, it's a guideline.
Yeah, it's annotation.
It's annotation, right? It's serialization.
Yes, it's a way for us to represent structured data. We have structured data here. We have a list. That's a data structure, a list. And
it's not a comfortable data structure.
Yeah, but it's a data
structure, yes.
Yes. So because it's a data structure, we can come here to text. This is no longer just text. Now it's a JSON data structure.
Yeah.
And currently it's not a valid one.
Yeah.
Postman is complaining. So let's use the JSON notation to represent this list. So this is a list, okay? This is how you write a list in JSON. And each item in the list can be one of these strings. I'm going to start simple here. You see that I'm not honoring the IDs just yet.
Yeah.
So this is a list.
Yes.
But these elements in the list are not just strings. They are not just the to-do item. They are also the ID.
Yeah.
So they're coupling two different kinds of data, the ID and the text of the to-do item.
You mean a key value?
Like a key value, yes. Like an object or a dictionary or an associative list. There are many
hash table.
Many
depends on
for
what
the same
language.
beast.
Whatever language you use, there will be a version of this. That is for sure.
Yeah, and this is how you write one. So the identifier in this case is the number 1, and the text.
I guess
the description.
Yeah. Description works better. Yes.
Description.
Yes.
Okay. So we can do some copy and pasting.
Yes. 3, 4.
Okay. So this is saying the same thing as before. It's a lot more verbose,
Yes.
but it's also better.
Yes.
Why?
See, the client is dumb. Okay, I made that point specifically at the start because it's important to remember. If I give my client that data format, it doesn't have to do anything. It doesn't have to parse strings. It doesn't have to figure out where there is a colon in the middle of a sentence and see if it's an actual colon between the identifier and the text, or if there's just a colon in the damn text.
That's a great point. What if my
Yes.
to-do item read like this?
Exactly.
Now
You're
this
screwed already.
column would be confused with the other one.
Yes.
So this is.
You're screwed already.
It would be like this, and then this column could get you confused.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah.
Why go through that? Tell your client, okay, I will tell you an identifier, I'll tell you a description. All you have to do is iterate through all of the data I'm sending you. This is what you're looking for. Go find it.
Yeah.
Don't trouble me about anything else. Just go find it.
For me, the key point here is that the communication between server and client must be in plain text.
Yes.
That is the protocol we are using for client-server communication, plain text. But we want to communicate data that is not just plain text, it's structured data. And in JSON, we can represent this structured data as text, but we don't have to do the work of coming up with this text in the server and making sense of this text in the client. Because there are libraries to do that for us. In the server, there is this library called JSON. We just give it a Java object, it will generate, or a Java list, or Java data structure.
Any data structure.
It will generate the text that looks like this. And on the client, we have JavaScript. That's the language that runs in the browser. If you go here to the TODOOSE toolbox, on the client, the programming language is JavaScript.
JavaScript will be able to read JSON.
JavaScript is able to read JSON without any libraries. It doesn't even need something like JSON on the server.
That is why the name JavaScript Object Notation.
In fact, JSON stands for JavaScript Object Notation. So JSON is a language, a notation, that JavaScript can interpret natively. And we are going to see how to do that later when we write the front end. So this is a better way of communicating structured data between server and client. And this is an example of how
a successful request would work for getting all the to-do items. That's all.
Now, there are a few other things that we can do with the app, like to create to-do items. So let's try to do this one. I'm going to create a new request, and this time it looks like I'm filling a form and sending the data from the client to the server. So this time, we don't use this type of request. We use a different type of request. You can see there are many different types of requests. We are only going to use like 3 or 4 of them.
You only ever use 4 of them? Like, I've been doing this for a long time. I've never ever used options.
Fair.
Like, I don't know.
For this request, which one do you want to use?
I would go with put, actually. There is an option of put versus post, but from my understanding of it, post is updating stuff and put is just putting it on the server.
For me, it's exactly the opposite. So we need to
actually check this out. Yes.
So let's see, HTTP verbs. That's how they are called. Verbs, they are different actions. And post to create. And put
is
to
update.
update.
Okay, sorry.
So we want to create a new to-do item on the server. So let's use the post verb.
Okay.
How about that?
Okay.
So the URL is going to be similar.
HTTP
localhost and items.
You need an identifier there, so that can be sent from the client to the server. I would say just call the endpoint new item.
Something like this. New item.
I think I just don't know if a hyphen works. That's all.
It works.
Okay, then that's fine. I'm good with that name.
Okay. I'm not too happy with that name, because if we get items, here's the get items request. If we get items using this URL, why not use this same URL to create items? After all, they are
items.
items.
True. Yeah, I think we can go with items itself. Just since it's a different type of request, it will not have a problem interpreting it.
Can we see the two side by side? I don't think so. So yeah, when we are getting, we get a list of items.
Yep.
When we post, we create a new item.
Yes.
So the URL exactly the same. The action or the verb different.
It's different. Yeah. So when you actually specify it on the client side, like when, let's say you're writing something in JavaScript and you want to send it to the server, you will actually have to specify that it's supposed to be a post request. Otherwise, you might send a get request and get everything back instead of creating.
That would be incorrect. Yes. Okay, so we have here the URL and the verb, but we also need to say what the item is, the description of the item is. For instance, read to do items, that's the description of this one. And so we can do that here in the body.
Yes.
And I think
form data is this is an easy on the eyes interface basically. Like I can do it in raw, I can do it in URL encoding, but form data just gives you like a key value thing and makes the request for you. Yeah,
so I'll copy the thing here.
Yeah.
And we can see it in raw as well.
No. It doesn't translate. You have to write it.
Okay. Yeah. So now we are giving this from the client. The person was writing this on the client.
Yeah.
Hit add
enter or plus button or next or whatever, anything.
Yeah. And it sends this description to the server.
Yeah.
Hang on. There's something I'm thinking about. The way I think about doing this is copying this interface exactly on the browser, on the client. So here we have a button to create a new item.
Yes.
But we don't have a way to give it a description. We just have a way to create a new item. And then later, if we want to edit this description, we can. Initially, it's empty.
Yeah. So you can still have so if you have, let's say, an empty description here, and then use the edit function when, like you said, you're editing it, it works out the same way, doesn't it?
Yeah, so how about we don't even have this data here? You just create an item, it's empty initially.
Yeah, and you get back an identifier though. That is necessary.
You will get back an identifier that you cannot see here.
Yeah.
But you could see here when
you actually do a get
a list. And you see the example of a successful one.
Yep.
You see all the identifiers. Yeah, the server is going to create that for us. So I say that we don't even give the description here in the create item.
Yeah, so basically, so whenever you're actually creating a new item, let's say by just typing it out in the app, not using the plus button, you're actually doing two requests. You will first send a create request, which is to this post request to items. You'll get a new identifier, and then you will be sending a put request. You're editing text for that particular identifier itself.
Sure. Yeah. So what we are doing here is just the plus button. That's what we are doing now. We are designing the API for the plus button.
Yep.
Okay, and let's see an example. First,
just change the description concept. No. This description.
Yeah, we are going to do that right now when we save.
Okay.
I hit Command S, but I can also come here to save. Okay, so now we can change this to create new item.
Create the spelling of it. Yeah.
And now we don't have to say to which collection to save this.
It goes to TODOOSE.
Yeah, it goes to the one we used before. So we can save this now. And then we have an example of this that we can create. And this is a successful.
Yeah. Again, it's empty. It just sends you back. However, you need an identifier sent back here.
Do you? Because we already have a way to list all the to-do items. So this response may be just empty. It doesn't respond with anything. You created that to-do item. Good for you.
So I'm thinking, can you actually pull up the reminders app? So that was the plus button, I get it. But what if you start writing stuff here?
Well, then the item is already created.
Yeah, that.
So, okay, I'll try to sell you this idea and let's see if I can convince you.
Okay.
This is the workflow to create a new item. You always click here on plus.
Okay.
And then you get this new identifier that is just coming from the list of items, right?
Seems inconvenient. So this is if it is one way out of two, I am on board, but I would want to see the other way of doing this.
Okay, so first, if we do it your way, the way that you want to see, we would see a response here with some
identifier
5. Let's
5,
say.
yeah, and JSON, type JSON. Yes.
Yeah. And if we were to do it my way, we
it'd
would
be
do
empty,
it like
yeah.
this.
It'd be empty. Okay.
Yeah. So now, how do we solve this?
So yeah, that being, let's just go back to the app 1 second. Yeah. So what if, do you mind?
No, go ahead.
Yeah. So let's say this is done. I just don't want to finish this up. Okay. So my point is that's the plus button, right? Works. If I just type it here and start typing.
Well, let's pretend that this is clicking the plus button behind the scenes.
Yeah. That's what I was saying.
Behind the scenes, you're clicking the plus button.
So that is what I was thinking. Like behind the scenes, it is clicking the plus button. So first you run a create request, post request, and then you do a edit put request. How would you do that? Like how would you? I run it and then I don't get back an identifier. How will I be editing something that I don't know what it is?
Okay, I see your point. How about this? How about we don't allow the user to do it like this? We require the user to click the plus button because we are in charge of the front end as well, so we can do this.
It's inconvenient, but in the sense that like I am used to just writing it out now. But yeah, I get your point. If you constrain it, the API specifications work.
Yeah, I think it's simpler this way, and the simpler the better.
Yeah, right now, yeah. I don't see the point of making an actual like full scale app out of this.
Yeah. So yeah, that's it. That's all we need, and we can save this example as successful.
That works.
Okay, we only have 1 more minute.
Yeah, I think that's a good enough introduction to this, to be honest. Like we don't.
Yeah.
We actually do not need to show all of the requests. Like
there is only one thing I want to show, and that is the response code.
Yeah.
Because we want to tell the.
Yes, please.
We want to tell the browser that not only this is the data you get, for instance, this is data you get, but also that, yeah, you succeeded in this request. It's a successful request. And a successful request is
200.
200. That's the status code in HTTP for a successful request. There are unsuccessful requests with error codes as well.
Which will have different numbers depending. I'm sure everyone has seen 404.
404 is familiar.
Yeah, that's standard run-of-the-mill error code.
That's when you try to request something that is not on the server.
Yes.
And for this other request, the one in which we are creating a to-do item, there is a status code designed for...
201.
Oh, yes.
201, yeah.
Created. So this is like 200. It's a successful request.
Yeah.
But it's a specific kind of response that says, not only it's successful, but I understand. I created this to-do item.
I did what you need me to do, basically. So if I'm not wrong, it works like this. Like generally, if it starts, I can't remember what happens if it starts with a 1. So if it starts with a 2, it's supposed to be anything okay plus additional suffix. Basically, it worked in something. 3, it's generally redirects, but I might need to confirm that. I can't remember. 4, there's an error, check what's up. 5, there's a server problem then. Like 501 is server unavailable or something like that.
Like this.
Yes.
Google for HTTP status code and you
will get something, yes.
Okay. So that's it for this session. On the next one, do you want to finish this API?
Maybe, I don't know. So we actually went into a lot more detail than I thought we would, to be honest. I think this should be a good enough introduction to figure out API specifications.
All right.
And we can actually start writing it up now.
All right. See you on the next one.